Came back to this old front porch, standing on broken boards. Same old red truck in the drive, same town, but a different war. Mama smiles and holds me, Daddy shakes my hand, but I walk through the door feeling like a stranger in this land. They ask me how I'm doing, I say I'm doing fine. I change the subject every time the past crosses my mind. Got a heart that jumps at thunder or a slamming door, trying to learn this quiet life after living loud in war. So talk me home, don't need the perfect words, just sit right here and let your voice be heard. I don't need fixing, I just need a friend to listen while the pieces find their place again. I'm tired of being brave and feeling all alone, so just hold my hand and talk me home. Little brother's growing taller, but he won't meet my eyes. Got my stories locked in boxes, he's got questions locked inside. Sunday dinner at the table, laughter all around. I'm counting exits, watching shadows moving across the ground. I say you wouldn't get it when my daddy asked me why. He just nods and passes the plate, but there's sadness in his eyes. Then mama whispers softly, son, you ain't over there. You're sitting in this kitchen and we're all right here. So talk me home, don't need the perfect words, just sit right here and let your voice be heard. I don't need fixing, I just need a friend to listen while the pieces find their place again. I'm tired of being brave and feeling all alone, so just hold my hand and talk me home. We start with little stories about the dog, the garden and the rain. Next thing now I'm explaining where I left a part of me in pain. They don't say they understand, they don't try to make it right, they just keep on talking with me through the middle of the night. Just talk me home, don't need the perfect words, your simple questions are the sweetest I've heard. Oh, you're not here to fix me, just to sit and stay, and somehow all this silence slowly fades away. I'm not that same soldier standing made of stone. With every word you say, you talk me home. Yeah, with every quiet question, every how you been, I start to see there's healing in just letting you in. I'm not fighting this alone, like I've always known. You don't have to understand to talk me home.
All right, folks, thank you for joining me. This is your congenial host, as always, Larry Barnett, with you this evening for 10 more minutes. That'll be in the morning. I'm wanting to create a docu-series for my family, and I think this is a good platform to do that. After I'm dead and gone, they've got someplace to go and find out who their great-great-grandpa was, what he did, what he didn't do, those sorts of things. But I've keyed up the interview, the last interview that I did. It will give you a overview of what the last battle of the Vietnam War was. Many people will associate the end of the war with the fall of Saigon, and that's incorrect. The fall of Saigon was the next to last battle of the Vietnam War. The last battle happened on May 15th, 1975, and the circumstances surrounding the battle and a lot of different things happened, and we're going to get into all that just so my kids know that they carry this over in their legacy. Their grandpa was a Marine once and made a difference. So let's cue this up. All right, Rumble. Here we go.
Field at that particular time on maneuvers and got a call to get back to the barracks. We didn't know anything about the ship or anything at that point. We just had a call to get your bags packed, you're leaving. And within just a couple of hours, we were out on the parade deck air base. And from there, it was still dark. We were loaded up on C-130s on our way somewhere. We opened up the bottom of that thing, I guess, and we was in, that's where we sat. Put us in airport hangars, and I think by at that point, we'd already heard that there had been a ship taken, and that's what we were sitting there waiting for. It's really strange. Hindsight's always 20/20. And look, you wonder why there was never any real intel on that island. We know we know now, and I'll speak from now, we knew sightings of the crew. Whenever that you talk about the intelligence community has a tendency just to draw up and shut up, okay? About this, all right? Learn from it. It doesn't do anything for us now, and we don't really have a beef, but there's kids out there fighting now, all right? Learn from it. Show future generations how to get by this, all right? And don't let there be a breakdown in command to where that you can't pass this information where it should be, since that was available, that never made it into the hands of people that needed it, okay? History's made to learn, that you don't make the same mistakes again, okay? I hope I say that the right way, and I mean that the right way. I mean that in the best way possible, okay? But the truth of the matter was, then it never made it where it was supposed to. Why is going to be up to the people that were responsible for it making there to answer. That'll be up to them, okay? We were told that we could expect a handful of fishermen there, villagers, maybe some sniper fire, and that there would be very light resistance there. They thought that the crew was being held on the island, that there was going to be a assault with helicopters, that some of us would come in from the east, some would come in from the west, that we would link up and then sweep the island to search for the crew. That was the idea. A couple things that were to be kept in mind. One was what was missed primarily by intelligence was that the Cambodians were fully expecting an invasion from the Vietnamese, which is why the island was reinforced with a battalion, because it was jumping off point to the southern end of Cambodia. Fully expect. Now, how that was missed is to this point still a mystery as well. Okay. Second, there had never been in history, and never has been, as I know of, an assault on a beachhead conducted with helicopters. The only thing comparable, I believe, is the Son Tay raid in Vietnam, and you know how that turned out. It's never, I don't believe it's ever been tried again. Okay. So anyway, that was the plan. We had passed out enough ammo to begin World War III, though. You know, as Lieutenant Sissery, my platoon commander, had said at that point, they passed it out like it was passing out grades like they were popcorn, and we certainly were. I mean, I had enough bandoleros to get me through for a week of fighting by myself if I had to, you know.
Did you say anything to your squad? Take a moment to contemplate your leadership going into this?
I told them what Sissery had told me. The only other thing I had passed at that particular point was, guys, let's stay on our toes. Let's get rest. All right. We're going to do just fine. Okay. It's what you would normally do at that particular point. But I'll be honest with you, man, my stomach just told me different. It just didn't feel right. That's the only way. I've told that all my adult life since then. It just didn't feel right. Okay. Jim Davis had told, rest his soul, had told later he had went over and took pictures with the 35 millimeter that he had, I believe. He had initially also got from S2, finally got some real intelligence pictures. They had finally got to him just as we're taking off, you know, and he's seen reinforced bunkers in there going, uh-oh, you know, but by then it's too late, you know. But instinct's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing. I just knew it was not going to be the cakewalk that everybody thought it was going to be. We took off at dark 30. I don't know what time it was. It was still well after dark. I don't remember how many choppers were there, 6, 7, 8, however many there were. We were scheduled to land on the east beach, half on the east, half on the west. How many choppers that there were. Was it a 3-hour flight, 3 or 4-hour flight, however long it was. And during the flight, I remember they tested the guns as they went out, and them some bad guns, buddy. Zip. When they shot, they shot. They tested them, and we had gotten off to a late start, getting off tarmac. The idea was to try to surprise them and get in there before daylight. And we missed the mark. We didn't surprise anybody. When we got there, the sun was coming up over the horizon, and it was clear. It was calm. It was a big, bright orange sun, and you knew we were coming 10 miles before we got there. So there was no element of surprise. Somehow, I had remembered, and I don't know why I remember this, that somehow during the operation we got crossed up. 31 was where we were supposed to be, and we were where 31 was supposed to be. And 31 landed on the top of the hornet's nest. And, 31 took a round in the fuel tank. A chopper being made of magnesium, it just went like a match. I remember on the inside just seeing a bright orange glow and felt a tremendous amount of heat on the side of my face. And I had looked over on the side and remembered seeing rifle butts where they was trying to bust out the side of the windows, the sniper trying to get out. And that pilot just still trying to fight that chopper, trying to get that chopper down, just heart racing, 200 miles an hour. And I know it made me look, but then at that point I looked out the back of our helicopter looking straight into the jungle. And just as we were backing in, I think our chopper pilot had changed his mind and was fixing to come back out. And right at that stop point of coming back out, we took an RPG round to the tail, and the tail section just folded away. That's called loss of yaw control, and the body of the chopper started spinning this way and then set down on the beach. And Lieutenant Sissery, who never had a bit of combat experience, showed himself well that day. He got up and motioned everybody off of the helicopter onto the beach, and he led the way, and everyone came. It's kind of comedic at this particular point because when Sissery hit the beachhead, he landed right at the tree line. And everybody piled right up on top of him like a bunch of damn dance. Sissery looked over and said, "Barnett, spread these damn people out. I mean, one mortar round would have took us out, But they was hitting where he was. So, and scared to freak to death. Lord have mercy. And I don't know what made me do it. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I said, "Boys, they know we're here." I said, "Let's set up." And I'll never forget, I looked over at old Louis Ybarra. I said, "Ybarra, look at me." And I just started pointing, one by one. And we got them set into a semi-perimeter. And we got set up in the jungle on that side. And you know, by then 31's in the water. It's a bloody mess. We didn't at that point know that they were to our north. You know, there was a patrol boat. We figured there was a mortar position inside that patrol boat, so we didn't know that it was actually to the north. That was that point they started walking mortars in on us. So they took out the patrol boat there during the day, and for the most part, we stayed helicopter bait. Every time they try to come in, I mean, that tree line would just come alive. For fire discipline, they were absolutely immaculate. But well trained at it, there was no doubt about it. They tried to reinforce us one time, tried to evacuate us one time, and every time they'd come in, they would just drive them right back off of the beach. And one time we had one of our bodies on 31 was floating outside of the water, and Staff Sergeant Wyatt was on tree line. He was over by Ybar's position, which was to the far left of the perimeter, and one of them just trotted out in them black pajamas, trotted out to that body, and turned it over, and Wyatt took Ybar's rifle and took a shot at him. It was only 150, 200 yards out. He missed him 2 or 3 times. He was cussing up a storm, bad as fire goes. He missed him. I said, well, there wasn't, you guys only had these guys. The whole battalion was in rotation at that particular point. They hadn't battle sighted the weapons. There was nothing, you know, except you had what you had. It made him so mad he couldn't see straight, you know. Didn't have a radio that worked. We had no idea what was going on at the West Beach. We just know all hell was breaking loose on that particular side. Didn't have a radio that worked. We had John Lucas. We called him Cool Hand Lucas. He had the survival radios, and that's how we was able to talk with the Spectre, the overhead airplane. That's how we maintained. We never did have any overhead communications with the West Beach. Never did know what was going on, you know, over there. That was kind of our day for 14 hours, you know. Hell, we just didn't know. It had come to a point we were out of options. They couldn't reinforce us. At that point, they couldn't get us out. So Lieutenant Cicery and Staff Sergeant White said, we're going to have to move. So we knew we couldn't stay there after dark because we would get overrun. There was just no way to stay there. So we had made a decision at that point. We were going to go up to the north. We were going to try to hook up to the West Beach. We were going to go to the north and swing around and try to come back down the other side. And thank God we didn't do that. I went back to Koh Tang in 2000 and found the position that took us out. So thankfully we didn't do that. After we had decided if we had to, that's what we were going to do, the Wilson had a gig in the water. And one of those were Lieutenant Commander Tom Noble was part of that group on that ship. And they were going to send that gig in to evacuate, I think, about 12 people. We had 25. A gig is the captain's boat. It's on a ship specifically for the captain. Kind of, I guess it's their pleasure boat, whatever that it is. Belongs to the captain. But they had refitted it for guns, and they were using it during the operation for suppression fire and recon monitoring on the island. So They had decided they were going to try to come in and evacuate about a dozen people off of the East Beach we had wounded, and they were going to try to get them off along with about a dozen people. We had 5 Air Force, which meant they would take 7 Marines. We had 1 wounded Marine, so we had gathered up around in the perimeter, was discussing the gig coming in, and Sissery said the gig was coming in, said, "I need volunteers to stay." Wyatt raised his hand, John Lucas raised his hand, could not get my hand to go up. Sissery looked over at me and said, "Larry," said, "you got to stay." And the only thing I could do was put my thumb up, and I did. And he said, "Larry," said, "I need you to pick 8 more people to stay." He said, I said, "Guys, this is, I said, "Guys," I said, "you've been through a lot today." I said, "I know I got no right to ask you." I said, "But please don't make me pick you." And one by one, all the way down that line, every man's hand went up. And I didn't have to pick one person, not one person to stay. Now, that's not bad for a bunch of kids, okay? And you know what, that's been a saving factor for me all through these years. And, you watch a man over there with a bullet in his thigh, and a bullet in his leg, and a bullet in his arm, do this here, it lets you know what they're made of, So, unfortunately, the gig wasn't able to make it in, but in my career, that was by far the proudest moment of my life. And it stays with me today. It's the reason I fought so hard to work to organize these guys. It's the reason I chase them around like a hound dog every 2 years. It's the reason that I'll keep doing it. And I guess when I die, I'll haunt them every 2 years. So, but as nightfall started to approach, Lieutenant Don Backlund and Gary Weichel, he's one of our guest speakers this year, we're going to make one final attempt to get us off of that beach on that side. And Backlund's famous, for saying that he knew he was the last train out of Dodge. And he was. The sun was setting. There wasn't, it's like Jim Davis says, when you got your feet in the sand or feet in the water and your elbows in the sand, you don't own much real estate. And we sure didn't own much real estate. John Lucas was going to pop an orange smoke. And when he did, we were going to beat feet to the chopper. That was basically what it come down to. I was going to take a rifle and go to the left flank. Sissery was on the right flank. Wyatt was in the center. We would lay down cover fire and then head for the chopper. That's what the whole idea and the plan was. When a chopper come in, just like every time before that damn tree line, just come alive. Just come alive. And man, them guys, and they shooting that thing up like it was a piece of Swiss cheese. I caught a pair of pajamas off of my left side coming up that tree line, and my heart jumped into my throat. I emptied my rifle in that direction. Don't know if I hit anything, didn't care if I hit anything. I emptied my rifle in that direction, and I headed for that chopper just like everybody else did. And we got everybody. I think the last person on the chopper was Bob Doshniak. He was wrapped around the minigun on the tail end of it, and Stu Stanlin was the tail gunner, and Stu's telling him, hang on, hang on. He'd been shot in the foot, and old Doc Foley had him doped up on morphine. And he tried to hang on to that damn gun. By the time I done my count, I got on, counted all the way down the line, counted 25, and I screamed at the top of my lungs. I mean, I screamed. I know, for a solid 5 minutes at the top of my lungs. They took us back to the, shot up as that poor chopper was. They took us back to the Coral Sea, you know, and set it down. And it was weird because I thought we were going down in the water. I didn't know they were setting it down on the carrier, because it looks like when they're setting it down, you know, you think you're getting closer and closer to the water, you know. I thought, damn, we're going down in the water. But they set us down, so long day. You know, it was a long day. You know, but like I said, when you try to go back, you know, I think if history remembers anything, you know, with that is you know, it's the day a bunch of kids became men. You know, it was a time that you know, they rose to protect a nation, and they did so with integrity and courage and honor and the things that you're supposed to be. Not expecting it, you know, with every surprise imaginable, and they pulled off the miraculous, you know.
Well, folks, I've got background. All right, folks, we'll just get on with it. This is the first of a series that I'm going to try to put together for my kids. Don't have a lot of parts, but it's just one of them. Since it was just a rough day. It was a rough day. So we'll talk soon.